you don't get much salt.
I know, so that's good.
Need more water?
I'm drinking the Perrier, it's okay.
Well, Mason, you just have to get them up in the microwave.
Okay.
You know what? I'll put your pills on the kitchen table. Those are buttons.
Make sure you get the double spirit locked in.
I know. And the other too.
Most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child against 14 serious childhood diseases. For more reasons to vaccinate, talk to your child's doctor. Go to cdc.gov/vaccines or call 800-CDC-INFO. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Are you traveling? Working a little bit too much? Is your fur baby starting to get a little shaggy? Let Dirty Paws be your one-stop shop for all of your pet care needs. Stop in and see us at 202 18th Street or give us a call at 304-639-7754 to schedule your appointments for dog grooming, doggy daycare, and dog boarding today.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
February is Children's Dental Health Month, so make sure you make an appointment for your child to visit an Ohio Dental Association member dentist. ODA member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care, are bound by the highest ethical standards, and have access to superior ongoing education and training. On your next visit, ask if your child's dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association and American Dental Association, so you know you're being treated by the best. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit associationsadvanceohio.com.
You make 35,000 decisions every day. Are your gambling decisions good ones? If you struggle with a problem with gambling, call 1-800-589-9966 for free confidential support. Do you have a loved one who struggles with a problem with gambling? This 24/7 helpline also provides resources on how to support a loved one who may need help. Call 1-800-589-9966 or visit beforeyoubet.org.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Stand by. You're back to live and local programming in moments on The Watchdog.
Hello, everyone, from The Watchdog. I am the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. Weather look at your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. Periods of rain on and off, a daytime high near 64. Showers likely through the evening and the overnight with a low near 47. A drier Wednesday with highs in the upper 50s for daytime highs under a mix of clouds and sunshine. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
On FM, on AM, online, on demand, and on video. We are where you are. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe is here now.
And I would like to say that we are on target all the time. We're right on target with everything that I say. It's right on target. It's, well, maybe on target, but very seldom on time. It will attest to that. Speaking of time, it's 8:10 in the morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Temperature dropping just a smidgen, as it tends to do as the sun comes up. We've dropped to 51 degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 49 degrees here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and actually 50 stayed strong at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Another warm day is in store today, just like yesterday. Going to be a high of 63. That's nice. Going to be breezy, but it's going to be extremely rainy, a heavy soaking rain pretty much all throughout the day today. And because of that, we do have a flood watch in effect. It began about an hour ago. Stays with us until about this time tomorrow morning. So be prepared for the possibility of flooding. It's a watch, not a warning. It's just a watch. Keep an eye on creeks and streams. If you're near low-lying areas, you could have some of that to worry about. Coming up in just a bit, Tom Squitieri is going to join us, our national correspondent. We're going to talk about what's going on in Ukraine and what's Putin want here? Is he purposely trying to goad Biden into some kind of confrontation? Does he want to? Is he trying to show that he's the boss? I don't know what's going on there. And yesterday morning we thought that the things were settling down. This morning it looks like they're not. Tom Squitieri has been in the Pentagon all day yesterday and actually all week, and will give us the details of that coming up in just a bit. Next hour, I've been watching the documentary series about Bill Cosby, and it's on Showtime. This is old stuff in some ways, certainly stuff that we've talked about a lot on this show. But watching the series reawakened in me the questions again about how do we handle a man who has fallen so far from grace. He is he's a rapist, a convicted rapist, pervert, drugged women, multiple women, dozens of women. It clearly comes out as a scurvy guy, but he also was not only a great comic, but he was a trailblazer for African Americans in many ways. How do you reconcile those, and what legacy do you live with after the fact? Some of what this documentary series I've been watching has been talking about, and I've been thinking about, and I invited our friend, the Reverend Darrell Cummings, to come in from Bethlehem Apostolic Temple to talk a bit more about Cosby and the legacy of Cosby viewed through the eyes of an African American. So we'll do that coming up in the next hour of the show. And right now, we'll take a look at what's happening under the Golden Dome down in Charleston. In my personal opinion, in my analysis, the GOP-led legislature is continuing to undermine local control of any kind in this state, and also continuing to attack and undermine public education. That's the way I look at it. Today, the House Judiciary Committee will take up banning mask mandates, forbidding the local school systems to decide themselves what needs to be done. And the Senate yesterday loosened the requirements for homeschooling, making homeschooling have less requirements, really, than do public schools. I see that as an undermining of public education. Jeff Jenkins is here to give us not an analysis, but the facts of some of what's been going on under the Golden Dome this last 24 hours.
This is the Metro News Capital Report, brought to you by
$1 million. The full House will take up a bill later this week that provides for up to $10,000 of locality pay for state police troopers in 3 designated counties. State police want those 3 counties to be Jefferson, Morgan, and Berkeley, where they've had dozens of vacancies in recent years. Major Shannon Oglesby told members of the House Finance Committee yesterday the vacancies are occurring for a number of reasons.
One of the biggest being cost of living in that particular area, how much housing costs, how much rent costs, but additionally, what other agencies locally between city and county agencies are paying in that particular area. Just within the last 3 weeks, we lost another 3 troopers in the Eastern Panhandle.
State police say they currently have enough money in their budget to provide the locality pay. Today is day 42 of the 60-day session. I'm Jeff Jenkins on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Thank you, Jeff. 8:16 here on the Watchdog Morning Show. More details of all those stories coming up on Statewide Talk Line with Hoppy Kercheval coming up after the 10 o'clock news break this morning. Off the text line, my personal text line, Howard, why do you keep talking about Cosby? He's a pervert, rapist, criminal. Just let him die. Wow. He is all of those things. And we have gone round and round and round on Cosby on this show, going back to the beginning of the first rumors of these sexual allegations, and then we tracked them as they began to grow and grow and grow and grow. And we talked about it at great length. And he was here in Wheeling, and you all criticized me a lot. I went to see the show at the Capitol because Cosby is one of my comedic favorites. And now Showtime has it, so we've hashed this out, and I don't disagree. He is a perverted rapist criminal, true. But Showtime has this new 4-part documentary out. I've been watching it the last couple of nights, and it just reawakens some thoughts in my head, in particular about his impact as a trailblazing African American. And so next hour, Dr. Cummings coming in. I wanted to get his take on it, and we'll do that later on. Why do you keep talking about Cosby, says the texter? Because it niggles in my mind. It's how do we handle someone who did wonderful things and then did terrible things? That's all for next hour. But thank you for texting me. That came to my personal text, but our text line is 304-214-1600. Now let's go to Tom Squitieri, our Pentagon correspondent, because I am thoroughly confused about what's happening in the Ukraine. Tom, good morning. Welcome to the show, as always.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday.
Yesterday morning, I thought we were hitting a diplomatic solution, maybe. Around this time yesterday morning, I was talking about Putin and Biden agreeing to a summit if Putin agreed to stay out of Ukraine. And I thought, okay, this sounds like progress. And then this morning, the headline is Putin orders troops into some parts of the Ukraine. What in the world's going on, Tom?
Let me try to sort it out for you. There are a few things that are obvious, and then there are things that are not. Let's start with the easier ones first. The summit that was talked about between Putin and Biden was going to take place if Putin didn't invade Ukraine, and those details would be worked out. They were supposed to be worked out this Thursday in a meeting between Secretary of State. Our Secretary of State, Blinken, and Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia in Geneva. Now, I don't know if that meeting is still on. It was all conditioned on, if you said, if he stayed out of Ukraine. Last evening, reporters, including myself, had a briefing from, quote, a senior administration official on the situation. And that official was asked by another reporter, well, do Russian troops going into these areas of Ukraine, these separatist areas, constitute an invasion? And the official said no, in a sense, because Russian troops have really already been in those areas. They just never admitted it, which is true. Okay. So, in other words, sending Russian troops into these parts, and I want to emphasize this, parts of these 2 provinces do not constitute a full invasion yet. Okay. So, whether or not the potential for a summit is still on is not known at this point. That's the clarity I can provide on that at this moment at 8:30 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. Ukraine's foreign minister is here in D.C. already, and he has meetings this morning. He's going to be here at the Pentagon this afternoon. So he's here now. The issue of what happens next, of course. I don't know if you saw Putin's speech yesterday or read about it, but it was. I think the vernacular is, Howard, it was off the rails. Okay, he basically.
I was just trying to think of what phrase to use. It wasn't a speech. I think I saw maybe in your notes you called it a screed. I mean, it was bizarre. Let's put it that way.
Well, the thing about it is the one clarity out of it is that he talked about how Ukraine never really exists as a nation, and that's pretty important to grasp because that suggests his mental position on this. I don't mean mental stability. That's his way of thinking. The whole thing about NATO encroachment and missiles and this and that he's been talking about the last several weeks is a pretext as to why he's moving troops and all that. It was not that anyone really believed it, but he kind of shot at that open as well. So where are we today? That's a good question. This might actually be a relatively calm day, and I'll probably jinxed it by saying that, but it might be a relatively calm day, because things are settling in. Now, there's several tripwires, and I don't like to get too far in the weeds to confuse listeners. Not that they're not intelligent, but there's these sort of nuances. There's a country called Moldova, which is next to Romania, not part of NATO. They've had a breakaway Russian area in the eastern part of that country for a long time. And over the weekend, there was trouble there. So in other words, the Russian speakers there wanted protection from the Moldovans. Same thing we're hearing, in Ukraine. So there's all these little areas that are potential next steps. Does that help?
Well, again, this has been a strange story. It seems like it goes up and down. I feel comfortable, and then I get nervous about it. But let's ask. Let me ask you a couple of other questions involved.
Let me say one more thing,
Go
if
ahead.
I may. There was a significant action this morning in Germany. Germany is, tied to Russia with this Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And you've probably heard about that. It's a big energy thing. And there was some concern that Germany wouldn't sort of be in with the Western nations against Russia because of this. The Chancellor announced this morning that because of what happened yesterday, they're suspending work on that. Progress on that pipeline. That's very significant because it shows a couple things. One, it's important to Russia. That pipeline sends Russian fuel to Europe, but it bypasses Ukraine. So the Ukrainians didn't like that because they don't get the revenues from it, plus it isolates them. So, and Germany's very dependent on it. So by Germany saying this, the Chancellor announcing this, that sends probably the strongest message so far.
So that pipeline issue, to kind of put it in perspective, it is a serious practical problem for Putin. Plus, Germany agreeing to this it shows there's more solidarity maybe than he's expecting to see among.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Tom. Let's assume for a moment. I'm not assuming it, but for the sake of our conversation, let's assume that Putin decides he is going to invade. He is going to go to war. Is the Ukraine ready? I mean, we know that we've got some troops on alert and stuff, but this is Ukraine's war. Is Ukraine ready?
Ukraine is ready. That doesn't necessarily mean they can resist to victory. Let me add that. Not disparaging the Ukrainian military or its forces or its population, who, by the way, a significant group of that population is ready to start firing at Russians with their own rifles. There's a strong sentiment for Ukraine. And I think Putin's speech yesterday, which was designed to sort of stir up, support from his Russian folks, probably had the counter effect to a lot of Ukrainians who said, well, we're not Russians, we're Ukrainians, and just because we've been kicked around for 300 years before, we don't want to go back to those days. Their military, Ukraine's military, is much better positioned now than it was in when Russia seized the Crimea 6 years ago or so. Their ability to resist the Russian invasion, however, of 170,000 troops, planes, artillery, and cyber and everything else, it would be difficult for any nation to resist an onslaught like that. Speaking also, if you look geographically, it would be, coming from the northeast and the south. So that's at least three, areas of striking. That they could add the Belarus troops to the Russian troops. So they'll be overwhelmed numerically and equipment-wise, even with all the equipment the West has been providing Ukraine. However, it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy victory for Russia. They would pay a significant price militarily, and then if you're going to occupy the country or install a puppet government, you're still going to have troops there. The other report that came out this morning, Howard, since I sent the note to you, is that there's actions already underway to sort of formalize a government in exile for Ukraine, should that be necessary. Much like you're going to, I appreciate this, I think you will, much like they did in World War II for the governments of Poland and the other nations that were overrun by Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. They set up the government in exiles in London. They were recognized as the government of Norway or Poland or whichever nation, and they were given aid. Similar plans are being put into motion should that be necessary for Ukraine.
Let's come home for a minute here and talk about the politics of this in America. I've been noticing Republicans are kind of having to, I don't know what phrase I want to use. It's not dance on the head of a pin. That's not quite right. Straddle the fence. Nobody wants to not support the president in what could be a serious international crisis. And yet Republicans, many of them, are also sort of arching their eyebrows and saying, is Biden up to it? I'm not sure how I'm phrasing this question, but the politics of this for Republicans in this country seems to be a little awkward, at least to me.
Yeah, it's a tough position because we've become so polarized. We've become so polarized in this country. That they can't come out and say, I'm putting politics aside for the moment and supporting the president. Lindsey Graham, I saw one of his tweets this morning, and he said it's time, enough is enough. It's time to go after them. And I'm trying to find his thing now, but he said basically, he'll support whatever action the president takes, and he hopes the president will take strong action. He's not sure, but I'm not sure if the president will take strong action. And I'm paraphrasing him. I want that to be clear to listeners, but that was, it's a clear intent. So that's kind of what you're saying, I think, about this sort of fence straddling. They're not all in on just saying, you know what, we have differences on other issues, but here we're going to do whatever you want to say.
I think, and I haven't seen the Lindsey Graham tweet, and I understand you may be paraphrasing it differently.
I am.
I think that's kind of where my head has been at with some of these Republicans. It's we support serious action, and boy, we hope Biden takes it, but we're not too sure about this guy. I mean, that's kind of kind of the. It's trying to show damning with faint praise, I guess.
Now, on the other side of the coin is, a lot of Republican House members came out yesterday after the action by Russia and said this is the time to go for it, and let's not be timid, et cetera, et cetera. Not surprising, Many Democrats in the House joined that also, saying, okay, you know what, let's not waste any more time. Let's hit Russia with some sanctions now, And so you're getting some Democrats being more hawkish on this as well, to use one of those old phrases,
Where is the UN in all of this?
They're going to probably have a meeting of the UN Security Council to talk about it. Now, nothing will get through the council because Russia has a veto. However, if it happens, let's see what China says, if anything. China's foreign minister came out yesterday with a statement, and he also called, apparently, Blinken and other foreign ministers after Russia announced this. China does not agree with what Russia's doing here. We want to respect the territorial integrity of nations. Well, you take that with a grain of salt, But nevertheless, it's a statement that shows not full support for Russia's activities. Okay. And now that's not going to change a vote on the Security Council because, as I just said, Russia could veto anything it wishes. Nevertheless, you might have as the diplomatic phrase goes, a frank and robust discussion on the Security Council, of what happened, and sort of put it out there to the world. And the other interesting issue, Howard, and I try not to go into weeds here, but I am a nerd about these things. The statements from nations in Africa condemning what Russia has done. Russia is trying to make economic and military investments in Africa. This is seen and the language is striking, as a colonialistic move. Okay, and here we in Africa have freed ourselves from colonial rule. We oppose this kind of colonialism going on again. I'm not paraphrasing very much there. They use the word colonialism, those states. So, the interesting reaction on the world stage, does that save Ukraine from an invasion? Probably not if Putin wants to, but it does have an impact then on what could happen afterwards to Russia and eventual support for Ukraine should Ukraine be able to take back its territory, etc.
Tom, let me ask you a real broad question that maybe sounds stupid. Does Putin want to resurrect the USSR, the old Soviet Union? Would he like to see
yeah.
the Soviet Union back?
Oh yeah, that's not a stupid question at all. I mean, that's. I think one should acknowledge that that's part of his goal. I mean, just listening to his speech yesterday, and it dovetails with things he said in the past about the glory of ancient Russia, and who he quoted favorably in that speech, and who he mocked in that speech. Russian leaders who he mocked in the speech for kind of giving up the empire or giving up the Soviet Union. Absolutely. I mean, he's been trying to do it. I mean, he sort of has Kazakhstan under his wing again now, and obviously Belarus, he sort of, someone say, he took without firing a shot. So, he has slowly done it. And, one of the concerns voiced immediately were, like, from the leaders of Poland and the three Baltic nations, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, that, if he goes into Ukraine and is not really stopped, what would stop him from trying to take some of our territory? Then people say, well, you guys are NATO members. That would have it. But I don't think, when you're a megalomaniac, I don't know if you enter into these calculations all the time.
Well, and he's maybe testing the waters isn't quite right, but let's test the waters here in Ukraine, and then we can see where we go next. He
took the Crimea. He took the Crimea without anyone stopping him. He took those parts of the two parts of Ukraine already. He did Chechnya. Nobody really, I mean, it was bloody, but he did it. And the world didn't do anything. He put troops in Syria, and the United States and other nations kind of blinked. And so far, he says, well, I've gotten away with everything. Gotten away being without world coming at him, not without loss of soldiers, of course. But so, his track record in his mind is one of success.
So, Tom, last question. What happens today? What should we be watching for today? What might we anticipate today? What should we be afraid of today?
The White House, in this call last night, the senior administrative official said the White House would be announcing more sanctions today directed more at Russia, but not the package that if Russia, quote, invades Ukraine. So we'll see some sanctions announcement. We may see other announcements from other countries like the Nord Stream one, which I referenced a little earlier. The foreign minister of Ukraine is in town. He's good at, as I said, he's going to be at the Pentagon and elsewhere. We may get some announcements like that. My illogical, unfounded gut feeling, how's that for covering myself?
That's good. I got it.
That it'll be a relatively quiet day in the sense of, ground action and everything like that. But again, I would not be surprised if something. I just think that everyone wants to sort of, in Russia, he wants to do what you just said, see the reaction, take the temperature and decide on his next move. So I think today may be, again, relatively quiet. A lot of words are words. They'll be wondering if the Lavrov meeting is going to happen on Thursday, et cetera.
All right, Tom, I appreciate your update today. We'll talk again next week, but if things move faster, maybe we'll check in with each other again before the week is over.
Feel free to reach out to me anytime, Howard.
Because it's a fast-developing story.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Always appreciate your input. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Tom Squitieri, Pentagon correspondent, our national correspondent. He's here every Tuesday, but with the Ukraine situation very tentative, may touch base with him in less than a week. We'll see how things develop in the Ukraine. Coming up after our local news break, we'll check in with ABC News and get an update from them on what's happening this morning with the Ukrainian situation. Also, Biffy, did you? I don't know if you watched the game, but did you watch the clips of Juwan Howard and the incident after the game this weekend?
Yeah, I saw. I didn't see the game, but I did see the clip of it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I wasn't watching the game at all, but I did see the clip, and I drew some conclusions, and you probably did too, and he's been disciplined now. I want to talk about that maybe just for a minute or two when we come back here on the Watchdog Morning Show. I shouldn't say when we come back. We're not. Are you going anywhere, Biff? I'm not going anywhere.
If I'm going somewhere, we're in trouble.
Yeah, if you're going somewhere, I'm lost. So after we listen to the news from the Big Seven, and also after Tony gives us the Morning Mountaineer report, we may take a minute or two to talk about Juwan Howard. Also got some scams I want to share with you coming up here on the Watchdog Morning Show. And we'll kick things off when we get back with a look at Ukraine. Lots to do this morning. Busy day. 8:36, 24 till the hour.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News.
Biff will do a status report when we come back, but I'll introduce it. Thank you.
In the second half. So for the game, TCU shoots 54%. West Virginia shot the ball well in the opening half at 55% from the field, including 5 3-pointers. But in the second half, West Virginia shoots just 35% from the field, makes just 1 out of 5 from three-point range, and did not help itself at the foul line, finishing the night at just 56%. The Mountaineers were led by Taz Sherman. He scored 23, and that included his 1,000th point As a Mountaineer, he becomes the 55th WVU player to score over 1,000 points. Kedrian Johnson had one of his better performances of the season. He finished up with 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Final score, TCU wins it over the Mountaineers 77-67. Tomorrow night, Cyclones of Iowa State and West Virginia. Pregame coverage here begins at 6. The opening tip is set for 7. That is today's Mountaineer Report. It's brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Always on Talkline on Metro News, we talk with the leaders of the state of West Virginia, like Governor Jim Justice. And on a recent show, the governor said he would consider a pay raise for public employees and school teachers during the next session of the legislature.
We'll absolutely look at it. And from my standpoint, I would be a proponent, because I want to try to help any and everybody I possibly can.
Keep up with what's happening in West Virginia. Talkline, weekdays at 10:06 right here on this Metro News radio station. We'll talk to you then.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Greer Industries is a proud supporter of the West Virginia Scholar Program and West Virginia Wesleyan. For over 100 years, Greer Industries has been providing products that build a solid foundation and pave the way to a bright future. Greer Asphalt Company has 3 conveniently located asphalt plants in north central West Virginia, where they can produce a superior product with unparalleled customer service, all WVDOH approved. To learn more, visit GreerIndustries.com or call 304-296-2549.
Attorney Tom McIntyre.
Life. It may knock you down, but you don't have to stay that way. I'm Tom McIntyre. I'm a bankruptcy attorney, and I'm here to help you. Give us a call, and we'll send you a copy of my free book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. It's an interesting read, and it'll explain bankruptcy to you like no other book does. Give us a call. We're here to help.
Call Thomas E. McIntyre and Associates at 304-232-8600. Allow us to help put you back on the road to financial success.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Introducing our new redesigned 7 News app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design and easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tab, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF 7 News app, just update the latest version or download the WTRF 7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
If you need local news, you trust WTRF TV. And you will find TV7 News all day, right here on The Watchdog. AM 1600 and 1370, FM 98.1 and FM 97.7, WKKX and WVLY.
Watch out! He could climb on his soapbox at any time. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Mr. Big Voice Announcer Man was mentioning TV7 News, which we have all throughout the day. Starting in the morning before our show, you get an hour of news directly from WTRF TV from 6 to 7. Noon, right before the Bill DeFlin Variety Show, you get the noon news live from the anchor desk of WTRF TV. So in the middle of the day, if you can't get to your TV, you want to know what's the breaking news of the day, just tune us in, and we've got it live from WTRF. And then in the evening, from 5 to 5:30, the local news from Channel 7, 5:30 until 6, the statewide news, including Mark Curtis and all the legislative coverage. And that's that's a great roundup. Yesterday, I'm mentioning it because yesterday I had to be out during that time period, and it really was helpful to me. I'm driving around in the car, have some things to do, and I can turn on AM 1600, AM 1370, FM 97.7, or FM 98.1, and I get the TV7 News live in my car. Couldn't get to a TV set, but I got it there. So remember, throughout the day, anywhere along the way you need the news, we are here as a news partner with WTRF TV, 6 to 7 in the morning, 5 to 6 in the evening, 12 to 12:15 at noon, and of course in the morning show at half past the hour throughout the morning as well. We are in the midst of a flood watch. Doesn't mean that we have found any flooding. It just means be aware things could flood. We're going to have heavy soaking rain throughout the day today. Daytime high 63. Going to be breezy, kind of like yesterday, except with a whole lot of rain. Basically, that's what we're looking at. Temperature 52 at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 50 here at the home studios, and 50 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. One of the big stories we're following throughout the morning this morning is the story coming out of the Ukraine. Putin yesterday sent troops into what he calls Russian-controlled areas of Ukraine already. How serious is that in terms of a full-fledged invasion of Ukraine? Some diplomatic action still being talked about today. ABC News is covering that for us with updates throughout the morning.
More indications that Russian President Vladimir Putin could order a full-scale invasion into Ukraine. Russian lawmakers approving what they're calling a friendship treaty with separatist regions where pro-Russian troops are already moving in. ABC's Ian Pannell is in Kyiv, Ukraine, where President Vladimir Zelensky has just spoken.
Zelensky's saying this morning that he still doesn't believe that Russia's planning this large-scale invasion of Ukraine, which the Biden administration is warning about. But in an overnight address to the nation, he's accusing Russia of violating the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. He hasn't even touched, though, on that request by the Biden administration that he leave Kiev immediately and go to the west of the country for his own safety. And I don't think there's anything to suggest that he's going to do that.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announcing sanctions on 5 Russian banks and 3 Russian individuals. U.S. sanctions are expected. However, the White House is not saying whether this latest action will trigger the full package of economic restrictions they'd been promising. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
We'll have more from ABC, top of the hour on the ABC Hourly Newscast, and throughout the morning, we'll bring you some of the status reports, and throughout the day, keep you up to date on what's happening in the Ukraine. Let's shift out of the serious political stuff, Biff, and talk about the serious sports stuff. I did not watch the game, but I did see the clip that has created some controversy of Michigan's head basketball coach, Juwan Howard. It was really more of a slap, I think, than a hit, but nonetheless striking a Wisconsin assistant in the head over the weekend. You've seen the clip, Biffy. What did you think of it? What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, call it a slap, call it a punch. I mean, whatever you want to call it. Juwan Howard put his hands on another coaching member of Wisconsin's team, and you just can't do that. I mean, you cannot put your hands on an opposing coach. Now, saying that, the coach of Wisconsin in the handshake line after the game should not have put his hands on Juwan Howard. So I think both coaches, certainly Juwan Howard is at fault, but both coaches are at fault in this situation. If the Wisconsin coach does not put his hands on Juwan Howard does not react like he did. So I think it was a good thing by the Big Ten and the schools to suspend both of them and fines and whatever punishment they came up with. I'm glad it was for both coaches because it needed to be. Now,
But it was Howard got a greater discipline, and I think it's probably appropriate because the opposing coach, the Wisconsin coach, grabbed Howard but didn't hit him, and Howard was a little more forcible about it. So I think he was Howard's was more egregious, but I think it's pretty clear the Wisconsin coach started it. I hate to do that. It's like a kids on a playground.
Yeah.
He started it. But I think the Wisconsin coach started it when he put his hands, basically just on Juwan Howard's arm, which then prompted him to get angry and to reach out and slap. I think it's appropriate that both were disciplined. I think it's appropriate that Howard's discipline was a bit more. But, this is the kind of stuff you just hate to see.
Well, and especially it could have all been avoided because it was a timeout call late in the game that really set all this off. Listen, when you're up 15 points with 15 seconds to go, I don't even,
play the clock.
I don't care. You number one, and this goes with any sport, whether it be in any level, really. Doesn't matter if it's high school, college, professional. Doesn't matter what sport it is. Pick a sport: basketball, baseball, football, whatever. There are certain unwritten rules that both that teams usually go by, and that they would hope that their opponents go by. When you're up 15 with 15 seconds left, you do not need to be in a full court press. I'm sorry. You're not coming back to win that game. Let the team bring the ball in, run the clock out, accept your loss, and go home. Yeah. Now, because of that full court press, that's what caused the timeout. So you don't come out in a full court press with 15 seconds left. You just don't do it. You're not going to come back and win the game. It's done. Let them take the ball in. They had already had the backups in or whatever. I mean, just let the clock run out, go home, regroup, get ready for your next game. So
plenty of blame, I guess is the word. Plenty of blame to go around everywhere, huh, Biff?
Oh yeah, I mean, and again, like you said, it's not just Juwan Howard that's at fault. It should be the coach of Wisconsin. Should Howard's fine or suspension, should he have gotten, a bit harsher than the coach for Wisconsin? Absolutely. But again, it's one small play, one small call, one small this. It all could have been avoided.
That's
basically what it comes down
always,
to.
Biff. One small thing could have stopped it, or just don't call the timeout.
Right.
And we wouldn't be having these conversations on talk shows across the country today about the Juwan Howard incident, right?
Better yet, don't come out in a full court press. Exactly. If you just, it's one thing when coaches take timeouts late, and we see it in high school. A coach takes a 30-second timeout, and he'll look at the official and the veteran officials, the crews that are good, that understand. They know that when that coach takes a timeout, all he's doing, he's looking to get the kids on the bench that don't get to play a lot. He's getting to bring them in.
Give them a chance to get out.
They take a timeout. They make a signal like a with their finger, a twirling. Twirling might not be the right word, but they make some type of motion like, okay, we're just getting guys in. I really don't want to take the timeout. The referees acknowledge that. They know that. And that basically tells the other coach, hey, we're not going to, well, at least it should. We're not going to, we just want to get kids in. We want to end the game. We're not going to do anything crazy. We understand the situation. That's basically all this was. And to come out in a full court press, down by double digits with no chance of winning, no need for it.
The coach of Wisconsin got a $10,000 fine. And again, he definitely should have been fined. And disciplined. He, in effect, started it, if you want to put that in quotes. So he did get a $10,000 fine. Juwan Howard got a $40,000 fine and also a suspension through the end of the season. I think through the end of the season. So, again, it's appropriate that those two are not equal. I do think that Juwan Howard's was more, from what I watched, from what I saw in the clips, his was more egregious, but there certainly was plenty of blame to go around all the way around.
Oh yeah, and again, it could have been avoided.
Yeah.
That's what basically this all comes down to.
But emotions run high. I mean, you could tell to look at. You could almost feel the coming when you just look. Just watch the clip. Just the clip itself. You could almost feel the emotion, the anger, the whatever you want to call it, just coming off the screen. You know, there was a lot of tension right there before anybody did anything.
You could just see it. It was almost building to a point where you kind of had the feeling, well, there is the potential here for something to happen, and I think it did happen, but I don't think we expected it like that.
I was listening to the call of that incident, and you could hear the play-by-play guy, you know, like, it's getting worse. We got trouble. They can tell every step along the way this is going to grow into something that it shouldn't grow into, and it did.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, we don't need to see that happen, but it did. I mean, you get something every once in a while, and we had it, and hopefully both teams move on and learn from it and finish out the season.
Yeah, well, they'll finish out the season, but Juwan Howard won't be there to finish out the season with them. He'll be standing around. I was thinking about this. You know, I know you're not supposed to. So does he figure out, like, you know, does he send the signals in, you know, from the stands, Biff?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there have been creative ways that I think to try and get the things in and signals in and calls in. I don't know if they've been successful, but I mean,
you know, I don't believe this. I'm not suggesting this, but I was thinking, you know, kind of like in baseball, you know, if he, you know, rubs the bill of his hat 3 times or, you know, strokes his nose or something, will he?
Hey, all he's got to do is call down to the Houston Astros and figure out how to cheat. They did it.
That is true.
Call down there and see what they did and try and do that.
Okay, that's right. All right, coming up in the next hour of the show, we're going to talk with the Reverend Daryl Cummings. I've said this quite a few times this morning. I've been watching a documentary series on Showtime about Bill Cosby, and is there anything new in it? No, not really, but it kind of pulls together in its 4 parts the multifacets of Bill Cosby, the tremendously successful comedian, the guy who wanted to be a moral leader for the black community, the trailblazing work he did in the industry for African Americans, and his tremendous fall from grace with raping and drugging, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 12, 15, but I think 60 plus women, at least those are the allegations, and he went to prison for it. He's been released now on a technicality. But I'm wondering how the African American community wrestles with this. We saw a lot of it if you watch this documentary on Showtime, but I thought we'd talk a bit more about it. So I invited the Reverend Daryl Cummings to come in and to join us to talk about that, which is a strange thing to be talking about in Black History Month, but that's what's out there I want to talk about. But first, we'll check in with ABC, more on Ukraine and other news right now. It's 9 o'clock.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
Boom, 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 boom.